Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Baron After Dark. I'm your good Baron Orman Tagge, along with Salty Texas C. I am honored to have him on here. We were kind of talking a little bit. Sorry for the delay. We're having too much fun behind the scenes, but now here we are doing the show. First of all, I'd like to say hello to DJ Ronnie G. Welcome on board as well. Hey, Zax, there you are. Old
Uh-oh.
man. Yeah, I
Uh-oh.
know. He's always causing trouble, I tell you. And of course, we can't forget that villainous punk waddle out there, John Rendell,
I'm
my super.
I'm so in trouble tonight. Sorry.
Oh, you are.
Oh
Of course,
yeah.
we got Sherry Anderson out there as well, and let's take a look. And yeah, I think I got everybody. Is Pacific out there? Oh yeah, Pacific 414. Good to see you as well. So I think I got everybody up to speed. So welcome. I have a guy on here I hate to have on here because he sounds a hell of a lot better than me. Listen to his pipes. This guy sounds fantastic, and we're actually talking about our DJ days before coming on
Uh
here. So
yeah.
and I he was a better DJ than me. He was in the prestigious
No.
area of FM where I was AM. So
Let me know when you're gonna bring that guy on. I want to hear what he sounds like because I know you're not talking about me, not with the way my
oh
voice is tonight. First of all, I just want to say, Baron, you are such a great guy. I've watched your other streams. I like your easygoing approach, and I'm honored that you had me on tonight. Thank you.
well, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very honored to have you there. I'm glad Zach suggested you to come on here. I know anybody he suggests to come on here. I suspiciously first, knowing Zach's, and then Zach, oh yeah, this guy is good. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I met Zach's the same way you and I met somebody. Zach's and I just started talking one day via Twitter.
mhm,
That's YouTube is bringing people who would have never met in real life, who are separated by geography,
mhm.
together, and they're making great things. Like you and I didn't know each other. I didn't know
No.
Zach's. And that's the cool thing about this platform, in my opinion.
No, and going back to the radio aspect of it, it reminds me of the ham radio operators, how they were in contact with the world
Oh yeah.
back in the day. In fact, I had well, let's see, would he be considered a cousin or an uncle? I can't remember, but he was in constant contact on the ham radio, found family in
Yeah.
Norway. And it's
Yeah.
like, the world was a little bit smaller that way.
Yeah, no, I grew up with that. My dad was a very active ham, and I actually got my general class license. You learn how to send and receive Morse code at, I think it was 40 words per minute, and then also understand basic electronics. So
Hmm.
I am more of a nerd than I have ever admitted before. I did that when I was 14. So you can imagine what it was like to be a tall, pimply, gawky Dungeons and Dragons playing amateur radio operator in the early 80s until I started playing sports. So there you go.
There we go. And now I think they dropped the criteria of
They did.
Morse code for ham
Yeah,
operators.
they did, which I think is a real mistake. But
Yeah.
that's the deep, weird nerd alley to go
Now
down.
when you did do the tappity tap, now did you do the
Mhm.
traditional tap tap or did you cheat with that one where you went back and forth with the finger where dot dash dot? So you just
No, I used
good.
the old school. It looked like one of those swing line staplers, and
Yep.
it looked like something from a telegraph office in a John Wayne movie. That's
Hmm.
how I learned to do it. And yeah, I mean, I could still probably get most of a message if you send it now. It just sticks in your brain.
Hmm. Well, I was watching something the other day where they were talking about the transatlantic line and then some. And they're saying about how long it took, like a message to get from England
Mhm.
and onto the continent, across the continent. It's like 20 minutes from one into the other because
Yeah.
it go from one station to another station. So you do the mid signal here, it goes to that station, then they transcribe everything, then that again they go to the next station, and so on and so forth. And I found that just absolutely fascinating. The early, hey, Captain Trek, welcome aboard.
I was just gonna say I was typing up a message to the chat just saying hail and welcome because look at all these great people in here. Captain Trek,
Yeah.
hail to you. Good to see you here. And of course, hail to Zax, hail to Punk Waddle. Thank you guys for turning up tonight. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning to acknowledge the chat a little bit more because I'm one of those that when you get behind the microphone, for me, I'm
Mhm.
focused so much. It's like I need that producer to come by with a baseball bat. Hey, pay attention to them over there. Okay, what?
I'll tell you what. Now that we're Twitter buddies, if you don't mind, I will hit you with the metaphorical tweet bat and say, read the chat. Like,
You
because
got it.
because Zax will do that for me, and because I'll get going, and I forget
Hmm.
that. We were talking in the green room before the show, Baron,
Hmm.
about how important the chat is to our channels, and you just can't
Right.
overstate it. It doesn't matter if you have 2 subscribers or you have 2 million subscribers. The reason why you're there is because of your chat and people who
Hmm.
follow you. And last night, we on my own channel, we had such a great, and I was joking about this. We had such an active chat that every show I put together a list of topics we're going to cover. And I think I had like 10 last night. We got to 2 topics out of all of it. And that was only after an hour of 45 minutes into the show because our chat was suggesting topics for us. And I'm just going to say this. It is so much fun to have that kind of engagement with a chat. And I feel very blessed to have had that happen. So I strongly recommend it.
And hello, Tim's Talk. Welcome on board. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing with the. We have problems with the Kings on Sundays. I'll come into the green room. And it's nice to know that someone else calls it the green room besides me. It's like, but again, we
We're
have
old.
that. We're old,
We're old. You,
and
you got you got a year on me, so yeah. Yeah.
you know, and of course, the 24 will come up with this list of stuff. Hey, you want to talk about this, brother? And
Mhm.
maybe we get to one because we start, then the chat starts going into it before we know. You never know where
Yeah.
we end up going after that.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we
Yeah.
even plan for a show? It.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when you get into a topic, it's hard to get out of it, especially when the chat is driving you. Speaking of the chat, I see the lovely Sherry is
Oh,
in the
lovely
chat.
Sherry.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you're not stabby tonight. So it's
Well,
good to see you.
Stabby, the lovely Sherry Stabby. Oh, she's too sweet for that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, Baron, you and I were talking about some of our fandoms and kind of where we're at with things.
Right.
Everybody's been dropping these videos about Kenobi. I'm not gonna make one because I'm out on Disney Star Wars, but I'm still very in on the original George Lucas actual Star Wars. So, did you see
Correct.
that Kenobi trailer? Did that cross your bow today
Not
or no?
not at the moment because I work at such an odd time, so I
Yeah.
don't get a chance to see that. So I
Yeah.
usually catch that stuff up at night or maybe early in the morning when I get up. But
Okay.
I
Okay.
saw pictures. I saw pictures, and the pictures I saw didn't make any sense. No, honestly, it didn't make any sense. I
It
just
it
no.
it looked like they were trying to fit every possible member berry in there to legitimize that this was actually, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi that you all knew. And
Right.
in my opinion, I think those of us know that Disney Star Wars does one thing and it's break your heart. And
Yeah.
I'm not falling for it, I'm not. But
The closest I got to hope, honestly, the closest I got to hope was the Mandalorian season one,
mm,
because it was so so canonly neutral in that first season, and
mhm.
even Favreau was making a comment that we're calling him IG 11 instead of 88 because IG 88 is another one out there, and we don't want
Uh-huh.
to contradict the EU. I thought, well, maybe there is some hope here. And the fact that it was rather neutral. I mean, they weren't really saying one thing for one or one for the other. Of course, season two they threw that out the window, and then of course from there on it's just gotten worse. So
Yeah.
after that, it's like yeah, it was great seeing Luke in that scene. That's a giant member berry,
Oh God.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, I'm done with you, Disney, and you just
Yeah.
right. It's like I'm not even going to get heartbroken no more because I don't even
No.
consider it official or real. It's just some fan
I
fiction.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Last night on the show, we started to talk about Batman, and I always want to hear other people's, like, did you see it? Have you carved
No,
out
I
6 months of your life to watch that movie? Or
no, I the last movie I saw was Dune, and I
uh-huh.
actually Mexican Iron Man and Coach from Echo Base and a few
Hmm.
others prodded me. They told me you got to go see this movie,
Hmm.
and I was nervous because I'm a big Dune fan myself.
Oh,
Read
sure.
the
Yeah.
book many times, and it's like okay, this is great, but everything I was hearing about leading up to this Batman film didn't really grab me. And I
Hmm.
still hold that the Keaton '89 film is one of the best Batman films ever made.
I
Live
agree.
action, that is.
I agree.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and how
You
can
know,
you
I
what can you do after that,
No, no. I mean, and then there were a couple movies that supposedly happened under Schumacher, which I don't consider to have actually existed. Um,
What? Wait, don't like bat
and
nipples?
no, no, I'm not going to judge you, Baron. If you want to get if you want to
well,
get your bat nipple freak on, go ahead. But
well,
that's not
they
so
had
much for
they
me.
had it in the wrong bat. It should have been in Batgirl. But that's
Okay, see, I probably, yeah, yeah. Well, that makes sense to me. Yeah, it's that I'm in the same place that you were, Barrett. I made a video before this came out talking about the long weird road
mhm.
of Matt Reeves' Batman and what it take to get there, and it was more than just Pattinson giving a very poorly timed interview where he said he wasn't going to work out for the role. And it's one thing, like again, we talked about it on my show last night, was he didn't look like he worked out for the role. And it was the suit that gave him some definition. But, for those people who liked what Zack Snyder did, I happen to really have liked what he did with the Snyder cut of the Justice League. I really did. Ben Affleck was to me the physique of the Batman that I always thought it was,
Mhm.
and to go and then see Pattinson is kind of like sad emo Batman. It's see, but that's a whole other conversation. I'm just going to say this. I think the most heartbreaking thing about the Matt Reeves Batman was that this move, there was a absolute masterpiece inside of that 3 hours. There
Mhm.
was. The problem is there was probably only about 2 hours or 2 hours and 5 minutes of well, not even, it was less than 2 hours of masterpiece in a 3 hour movie. And if they would have just cut more things, we would all be talking about this was probably going to change the landscape of how we look at Batman because it's a detective story. But instead it just implodes, you know.
Right, and which it should be because that's what Batman is. He's the detective.
Mhm.
I always associated, the Batman Superman relationship as Superman's the guy who walks on the beat. He's the cop you see
Mhm.
on the beat. He's the one that,
Mhm.
not to the kids, takes an apple, polishes it, and eats it, that fun stuff. While
Yeah.
Batman is that one that is in the dark, trying to do all the detective work, getting dirty, all that. But yet each one needs each other with that
Yeah.
Batman
Yeah.
uh, relationship. And talking with Vigilante Williamson and Fat Steven Seagal, and also here the pulp culture crime fighters. They were talking about not crime fighters, but I can't remember who it was. Yeah, maybe it was crime fighters. And they're saying that one thing that you had like two movies almost. You had up to a certain point, and then after that was another one. And I asked, is there a way to, do you think that uh, is there a way that they probably could have trimmed it down maybe and uh, made it a better movie, better flow movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the one I was pinging Baron in the back because
Yeah,
I'm like, we have to pull this thing up. Yeah, Punk
yeah,
Waddle. I mean, it's Batman shapewear. Get your own cape and cowl for muscle
hmm,
definition in minutes. It's true. It's just
yep.
like, and we know they've done that in other movies, and but it's just in this case, Pattinson really did need to maybe eat more cheeseburgers and milkshakes to
To
fill
beef
out a little
himself
bit.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's the fact that having a younger Batman doesn't bother me because Batman was around 25 years old in the
Mm,
comic books technically, so
yeah.
he was a younger man, and so someone like Patterson playing that part isn't a bother. It's just what do we know him from already? Well, twinkly vampires. That kind of hurt him. I think that hurt him more than it hurt Michael Keaton coming on the Batman back then with being Beetlejuice.
It's true. I mean, and not only that, but Keaton's background was movies like Mr. Mom,
Hmm.
and sitcom comedy. Nobody knew what to expect from Keaton. And then
Right.
of course, you knew what you were going to get with Jack Nicholson because Jack
Well,
Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. It doesn't really matter what the hell movies he's in.
yeah.
He was a good Joker for the time.
Hmm.
Of course, the one thing that people keep overlooking is we got the lovely Kim Basinger
Oh yeah.
in that movie, which talk about a just that was the whole '80s package.
And
That
not only
film.
that, a very obscure character.
Hmm.
People don't realize Vicky Vale was a Batman character, but very obscure and didn't last long. Was in the very early Batmans. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And yeah, but I mean, like, should you see this movie in the theater? We had mixed bags last night.
mm,
I'm not gonna tell people what to do. I think if you have 3 hours to kill and you will, I think if you go and see the movie, if you haven't, and I don't think Punk Waddle has seen it yet, you
no,
can
yes,
hear all the spoilers you want. Like, I listened to Friday Night Tights
mhm.
last Friday, and I went and saw the movie on Sunday. And despite hearing all of those things, watching it in the theater was I just, for the parts of the movie when it was on, it didn't matter that I thought I knew what the story was, because there were some moments that were truly beautiful. But again, there's just too much extra that should have been chopped out.
And I heard people sit back and say Gotham looked like Gotham.
Oh, it really did. And you and I were both, 50 or so. We remember what it was like watching footage of New York City in the 70s,
Oh
with
yeah,
the garbage strikes and the filth and the decay. And they really captured that in this film. Gotham was another character in this
right.
movie. It wasn't just like, oh, we're going to shoot this, like in some back lot. They put a lot of thought into the architecture, the design, and the feel of this whole movie. So,
Yeah, kind of like the '89 Batman film, where they made like what 4 square blocks or such
mhm.
of Gotham City there, and had the same looking like the dirt, the grime, the nitty gritty, and they understood that Gotham is just as much a character of Batman as anything else. So
Yeah,
it's nice to know they did that with this film.
yeah. I mean, they really did. Again, and that's the frustrating part, is there was a masterpiece inside this 3 hour monstrosity, but it wasn't 3 hours. I think one could argue between an hour and a half to just over 2 hours.
Mm.
This would have been a slam dunk. I would have probably given an 8.5, 9. But as it is, last night. I gave it a 6.5. You know.
Okay. And that's what a lot of people have been doing, giving about 6, 7, 8s. That's what I've been hearing. People liked elements and all that, but just weren't fully wowed out by this film. I think people were a little bit more impressed by Patterson's work in there. I don't think they were giving him much credit. So
Yeah.
obviously, any performance he came out that was above par would be set back going, "Oh wow, he surprised me." No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Pattinson is a pretty decent Batman. He really is. He's a darn good detective. What he is not is he's not a very good Bruce Wayne. He's not. And if you see this movie, I'll think you see that, because there is no flip side to the coin. Pattinson is just literally only Batman, and there is no Bruce Wayne to speak of, really. So
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Because that's the important thing, the differentiating being, a Bruce Wayne
mhm.
playing the two worlds. It's not him with a split personality or anything like that. And my dogs are deciding to bark. That's
No,
going to turn that into a drinking game. Every time you hear my dogs bark, take a drink.
well,
And they'll,
you have good watchdogs, because they're obviously barking at nerdporeal life form. There's an
yeah, they are.
intruder in the house. So
Did you
speaking,
notice they started barking when he showed up?
that's why I noticed it. They're good dogs. Hey, I just want to say hail to nerdporeal life form. I'm actually going to be talking with him about the 1986 Aliens tomorrow.
Okay,
It's going to be cool. Going to be a good show. I love that movie.
very good.
Did you go see that in the theater? Did you
No,
see
I
it
didn't
back
see it
in
in the theater.
'86? Okay.
No,
Okay.
I didn't see. And actually, Napoleon was kind enough to ask me for the first one with the first Alien film, and I got
Yeah.
a dirty little secret to share with everybody. I'm not a
Uh-oh.
big Alien fan.
Oh,
I was never a big Alien fan, and the last time, so, I had to respectfully say, well, I didn't see it, so if you want someone from a different perspective of it, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. But I never was a big fan of the Alien movies for some reason. I love Terminator and stuff like that, but I love Predator. But I don't know why Alien never really grabbed me as much.
was it the dark horror element, the science fiction meets the slasher movie, which is kind of what Aliens was, except
Yeah.
incredibly beautifully done?
Oh,
Was it
yeah.
that? Was it the grotesqueness, that stuff, or just not your
Well,
genre?
yeah, well, see, the grotesqueness doesn't really bother me, but I never was a fan of the slasher films. I'm more of like the Universal horrors, or even, of course, anyone who watched the Hammer horror films, know
Oh,
that
me too.
there's
Oh yeah,
there's blood and gore in that as well. So it's the blood and aspect of it doesn't bother me at all. But
yeah,
I always thought that the slasher got way too predictable, and
I agree.
all it is we're just going to watch some guy go out there and hack up horny teens, and
Hmm.
then make it look like he died at the end, and he'll come back again. And that works like once or twice, but then it gets boring. I mean, the original Halloween, the original
Yeah,
Friday the 13th are obviously they were a shock to the system because it was the first time, but and when you had like the first Nightmare on Elm Street, boom, again that was another one because it changed it a little bit,
oh yeah.
but of course, knowing that that was based off of one of A. E. Van Volt's books, the Voyage of the Space Beagle, that they had on there. So that was the inspiration for the original one. And of course, the art design is beautiful, just like you said. It is. That darkness in the science fiction doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
If obviously if you love Blade Runner, you love darkness in science fiction.
100%, 100%. I think we had a conversation about that on Nerdporial's stream about how was this the same universe that Blade Runner was in? Because
Hmm.
I think that would be incredible. Now, I don't think it would be incredible now, but
Hmm.
it's like if we could get in a time machine, go back to the early 90s and get these guys coked up again and then make a Blade Runner Aliens crossover, I think that would have been really cool. And I do. Oh, well, see, that's a whole other thing. Is this the same universe? I think it could be, but well, I
Well,
don't want that movie now. I don't want to see anything from
no,
Hollywood right now.
no. Well, do you know what movie is technically in the Blade Runner movie universe?
Oh boy. Mm. Well, they tell me that 2049 is, but I've seen it and I don't believe it. That's all I'm going to say. No,
2049. I don't know what you're talking about there.
I know. Thank you. Thank you very much. There's only one Blade Runner movie.
There's,
Yes, I know.
there's only one.
No, yeah.
The movie Soldier with Kurt Russell.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was listening
Uh,
to somebody's stream a couple weeks ago when they were talking about that. I forget who
oh,
it
they were.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah. God, Zach's will probably remember.
yeah. He just
Yeah.
popped it down there. Yeah, Soldier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Alien versus Predator. It's kind of funny. I'm a big Judge Dredd fan. Of course, he did a couple of the comics where it was Dredd versus Aliens and Dredd
Oh yeah.
versus Aliens and Predator. But I haven't read those yet, so I don't know if I want to. But
Yeah. No, I used to read a lot of Judge Dredd, and it was the large, oversized comics. This is going back to
oh,
the early mid 80s. And then I was also into Captain Britain, which was a
Captain
great
Britain.
comic book that this great, gritty, beat 'em up
Hmm.
stories. I really loved those. And of course it was on pulp paper, you know?
Yep. Where were you getting those from, man? Because we didn't have the 2000 AD comic, no, the British ones here.
Mhm.
They had the Eagle comics that they printed here, but they never had the.
My brother sent away for them and got them. And so
Oh.
they would come in the mail and they were late and all the other stuff like that. And that was his thing. I mean, I was into some DC titles. I was
Hmm.
really into a comic book called The Nom. Of course, I was
Yep.
I was all down with with that and then playing Dungeons and Dragons. But my brother
Right.
was a huge Doctor Who fan, even
Hmm.
more than I was. And I'm a big Doctor Who fan, but he joined the fan club and he was trying to start fan club events. And through being that sort of an Anglophile, he
Hmm.
found sources for some of the UK based Doctor Who magazines and stuff like that. And Captain Britain was part of it. So
And that's not cheap either. Trying to get that stuff across the pond.
no,
That was
he
not.
he mowed a lot of lawns. He mowed a lot of lawns to do that. We used to have to work. We used to have to go have a
Mhm.
job, and yeah, yeah,
Who
the
was I
'80s.
telling? I can't remember. Maybe it was on the Kings. I was saying that. Yeah, I mean, I once went out and did a person's lawn just so I could buy. No, it was on 4-on-4 show about collecting. I went out one time and did an entire lawn so I could get a Yoda action figure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that obviously that was 80, 81 and all that. And yeah, that's exactly it. It's like this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do to get it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I remember buying the Dungeons and Dragons, the new books that would come out, the Player's Handbook, the
Hmm.
Monster Manual, I was the DM, so buying new modules. Those were what, $20-$25 back in the '80s. So that would kind of be the equivalent of what, $60-$70 for a book now as a kid. You know, and so you had to hustle and you had to work your butt off and shovel a lot of snow and scrape a
Hmm.
lot of paint and all that other stuff. But
Right.
check it out. We've got somebody in chat. It's Old Man who says the Nam was a great comic. It really was.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, beautiful, great stories. Very moving stuff.
Yeah. And I actually collected an old man, just to let you know, he's my father. So,
Oh,
so
oh,
I would read them, and then he would read them. So I was the one who was collecting them all up, and he was letting me know about how, except for the fact in the first issue where they were still treating him like he was in basic in the
mm-hmm,
beginning of the story. It was
mm-hmm,
how accurate that was, and especially the first year, the first 12 months of
mm-hmm.
the Nam, I think were some of the most
I
excellent that
agree.
he
I
brought forward.
agree. Yeah, I mean, whenever they go out on patrol, some of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that would happen off base, like just really incredible, incredible
Mm-hmm.
artwork, and the covers were fantastic. They
They
really were.
were. I mean, they got carried away towards the end there, where they were bringing the Punisher in and all that, trying to bring it into the Marvel universe. It's like, no, don't.
They were trying to keep it going,
Right.
and I think they could have went longer, but I think they would have probably had to maybe restart it and
Hmm.
start from a different perspective. Maybe another, go with a different franchise service or something like that and start from the beginning in the early days. But that's Jesus, that's like 40 years ago, 35 years ago now.
Oh,
So
35.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
at the time, there was some third, like, I think it was Apple Comics or Apple Press. They came out with one of Vietnam black and white. It was obviously your third party type
Hmm.
comic book, and it was about it from a journalist viewpoint in there. And then who was it? Didn't Marvel come out with Simplify to the Marine version? Someone came out with
Yeah.
Simplify.
Yeah, I want to say it's Marvel, but I
Yeah.
thought the Nam was a Marvel. Maybe it was
Nam,
DC's
yeah,
version.
Nam was a Marvel
Yep,
production,
yep.
and yeah, so I collected those myself as I was, wasting my hard-earned money.
Well, the game shop I used to go to was also a comic book shop. So talk about literally going into a drug dealer's house. It's like you
Oh,
got Dungeons and Dragons, you got dice, you got your lead figures, you've got all of your comics, then you have all of the fanzines that used to come out.
hey,
And
hey,
it's and then action figures, they had the action figures
yeah,
too. And it's just
hey, I
you
got
go in
some.
there and you blow all of your money that you work for a week in about 5 minutes.
Hey, I got some Gamma World here. You want some Gamma World? Hey, you want some mutations, man? I got
Oh,
some
dude,
Gamma
I
World
I,
here
pl-
for you.
I played Gamma World.
Hmm.
I played that great artwork in there, great ink drawing.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, and
and
some of
I
those
mean,
modules. Yeah.
oh, they're wonderful. I mean, I still got all my D&D books
Hmm.
on there from the first edition. I never got rid of my books at all. Of course, I picked up one kid. He sold his box set of Gamma World. I think it was like the second edition Gamma World box set.
Oh
And after
yeah.
he sold to me a while after that, he goes, "Hey, you want to sell that back to me?" I said, "Hell no."
It's
You
hard
know?
to find that. It's hard to find it out even on eBay, and if you do, it's not cheap. Even if it's basically tattered, it's still not
Right.
cheap. You know, I
And
you, you can find PDFs of it out there.
yeah.
So
In fact, drive through RPG, you can get some print on demand, some of that stuff. So out
you and
there.
I were talking, when you reached out to me, I said, "What do you want to talk about tonight?" And
Hmm.
you're like,
Yeah.
It's just like, and you're like, dude, I just want to do like Johnny Carson did. And it's funny
Yep.
because, and I made a joke to you that I actually love watching the old Carson episodes because they're
Hmm.
really damn funny. But
They
do
are.
you remember? Was there a certain thing that happened back? Because America all tuned in to Johnny Carson. That's what we did because we
Hmm.
had 3 channels of television. Do you remember that if there was one guest or one event that was on Johnny Carson that has always stayed with you, which you thought was either hysterical or weird or crazy? Like, is there
Well,
one moment from Johnny Carson?
it kind of is because it hit flashback big time. Of course, I didn't necessarily get a chance to really watch Johnny unless it was like when the school was out because you were supposed to be in bed beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember watching one time when Eddie Murphy was on
Oh
one of his
yeah.
first times on there, and he's going through there about the cereals. He had his one sister they called Special K because she was special needs, stuff like
Yep.
that. That
Yep.
that comedy bit, and I remembered that one, and I remember we were all sitting around, my friends and I were just laughing our asses off about it. Well, when they started, well, first of all, they started airing it. I believe it was on Antenna TV or Me TV. I can't remember. One of those were
Yeah.
starting to
Me.
show the old Johnny Cart. Me, yeah, it was me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
started playing those on over the air,
Yep.
and I sat down with the wife, and one of the first ones they aired
Was
was
that
that
one?
episode,
Mm-hmm.
and I sat back and go, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
I remember that episode,
Yeah.
and it
It,
was just
yeah.
a hoot.
It's going back 40 years. That's the crazy.
Yeah.
And you look at them and they were so young, and it wasn't as staged as when people go on talk shows now, where it's literally
Right.
everything is curated and none of it is organic. And you
No.
watch some of those shows like Johnny Carson or even Arsenio Hall, like
Hmm.
some, or the very old David Letterman. You didn't know what the
Yeah.
hell was going to happen. And that's what makes it. I love rewatching some of those old episodes of television like that because you didn't know what the guests were going to do. You didn't know if they were going to bomb. You didn't know if they were going to come off as a dick. And some
Well,
people did,
yeah.
and I remember Eddie Murphy, but I always liked when Frank Sinatra would come on the Johnny Carson show with Don Rickles, and to watch these guys, like, that these guys had a lot of fun together.
Mm.
They drank a lot of bourbon.
Oh
They
yeah.
played a lot of golf. They lived it pretty large, and it was just kind of cool to watch these people just having this perfectly natural conversation in front of you. So
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
just it. It was just we're gonna sit down, we're just gonna BS a while here. And yeah, you might be promoting a show, but that's not the big thing. We're gonna
Mhm.
talk about, what's been going on. I mean, you get Buddy Hackett on there for crying out. You don't know
I
which
know.
way.
I know, or Jonathan Winters. Hey, can you
Oh,
pull up? Can you pull up John Rental's chat because
the shish bob boom? Yeah.
oh god, it's like
That
for those of you who may not be as advanced in age as some of us, Johnny Carson used to do a bit where he'd put this big turban on and hold a letter up to his head, and he would say a phrase and then open it, and the joke would be in the letter. And
hmm.
um, yeah, sis boom ba. It's that was one of the best bits. After this show, go look up Johnny Carson sis boom ba, and it is that is hysterical. It's
It
timeless.
was
It's
from
timeless.
it
Yeah.
is timeless. The sound the sheep makes when it explodes. And it's just kept on.
I still laugh at that now. It's so stupid,
It's
but it's
still
so
funny.
perfect.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite comedians, he passed away not too long ago, unfortunately, was Orson Bean.
Oh yeah.
Humorous comedian on there.
He, well,
Uh,
he also did a lot of voiceovers. He did a lot of
yes.
voiceovers for cartoons, and he was part of the
Hmm.
Rankin Bass, The
Yep.
Hobbit. He did
And,
voice for that.
yeah. In fact, that's where I first saw the name. It's like I'm watching it as a kid and see this name Orson Bean. I go, wow, that's a unique
Mm-hmm.
name.
Mm-hmm.
And off of that, just grew in a fascination about him. And I got to finish his one of his autobiography books he wrote. Uh, eh, but I remember it because he was always a guest several times on Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching. There was always a schoolyard joke, and then finally, I figured out watching one of the old reruns where the joke came from. It came from him. It was about the parrot, about the lonely, horny parrot. And you familiar with the joke?
No, but just you saying it, I always default whenever there's something funny about a parrot. You know where I go? I go to Monty Python. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
like
the dead parrot
I go
joke.
to the dead parrot bit. But I don't know the one for Johnny Carson.
Well, the paraphrase, I'm not going to do as good as Orson, but it was like the first joke he told on Orson. 10 years later, he told the joke again, and that's the episode I saw. I go, that's where it came from. I should have known it. And the guy goes to the vet, and he goes, I'm having a problem with my parrot. My parrot's very ornery. He goes, people would come around. He starts cussing, swearing, and making suggestive moves or whatever to people, and he's just really carried away. I got this parrot problem. And the vet goes, well, it's simple. Your parrot's lonely. You need to have a little, companionship. He goes, luck will tell you, I do have a female parrot here. And he goes, so, for, $10, I'll let them get together and they can mingle. And the guy goes, oh, I know, $10. That's really a lot of money. And the parrot's going, do it, just pay him. Sorry. And so finally they go, okay, fine, hands over the $10. They put the parrots in the cage, put them in back, put a nice little sheet between so they don't see, and they're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden they start hearing this squawking noise like you can't believe up in there. So they pull the thing apart, and there's the male parrot on top of the female. He's got the one paw claw down on over the neck. The other one, he's pulling the feathers off this parrot. And he goes, for $10, I want you naked.
We got a bot in the chat. I am gonna hit it real quick. That?
Okay.
I blocked it. You might have to block it.
I'll do that.
Just keep. I am very familiar with them. So
I've been kind of it, but it's like for $10, I watch you naked as he's pulling that out. It's like it was always a schoolyard joke, and it's like, oh, that's where it came from. Of course, Orson told it a lot better than me. I'm lousy with telling jokes.
No, but see, those things stuck with you, and they stuck with pretty much the entire culture. That having only 3 channels, maybe 4 if you included public television,
right?
You essentially had the same experience culturally, and that's something that now the discordance out there, like people have cut the cord. How can you blame them, though? I haven't watched network television in I don't know how long, and every time I see it, if I'm at an airport or I'm in a store and they like Best Buy or whatever, and you see the TV shows or whatever it is, and it's like, oh my God, like who watches this stuff? But we're all having a very different, divided, separate experience around entertainment. And don't even get me started about news or what passes for news these days or perceptions of the world. So I was hoping he'd pull this up. This is from the Thad that should be. He's a longtime friend of my channel. Great to see him. He has started his own channel. He's putting out great reviews. He did a great one today, and you guys check him out. He's a good dude. So yeah. Do you remember David Letterman when he was still on NBC?
Yeah.
And when the guy who played Marty McFly's dad in Back to the Future came on, do you remember that episode?
I remember that one. And that basically lost him doing the other movies.
Yep. He basically freaked out. You guys need to go find this clip. It was David Letterman, and I want to say it was about 86. The guy, from Back to the Future who played Marty McFly's dad came on the show. He looked really androgynous. He's wearing these huge white platform shoes or boots or whatever. And somebody gave this guy like a bad joint or something because he was having a mini breakdown, and he tried to kick David Letterman in the head, like doing karate kicks. And David Letterman got it from his desk and basically ran off the set. And then this was all like, we were going, what the hell just happened? So the next time you watch Back to the Future, just remember that. It's the reason why you never saw his Crispin. Yes. It's the reason why you never saw that cat again, and he wasn't in movies for a long time either.
Yeah. He Joachim Phoenix back before Joachim Phoenix was even thought of.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring up David Letterman because, I loved David Letterman when he was starting out on late night. That was his best stuff. It was like no filter. We're going to, we're going to break boundaries and rules. I remember he's throwing off stuff on top of then one of them is the
Rockefeller Center. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, this was he Rockefeller Center? Or was he a ways out in New York, or did he? Was it that start
I
in
thought he was.
California?
I don't know where they were shooting it,
I
but
can't remember.
he was still on NBC, and it was after
Yeah,
Carson. You know.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and he was throwing stuff off. One of them was the Wile E. Coyote stuffed doll, made it look like the falling from the top of the mountain, like he
Hmm.
always does. But yeah, that was some of his best stuff. And do you remember Tom Schneider?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And John Rendell in chat was saying, oh boy, it jumped on me. And yeah, Super Dave Osborne, Bud
Yep,
Melman was great. All those recurring
yeah.
characters. Yeah.
Well, you
Punk
know where?
Waddle.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say Punk Waddle says he grew up watching the Letterman show with his parents.
Mhm.
It's a great show. It's a great show.
Now, do you know where Super Dave Osborne came from and who his brother is?
I do not. Tell me more.
Okay, so of course it's not it was what's his name? Something Einstein. I can't remember his first name. His Albert Brooks is his brother.
Oh no way. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and of course, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, Super Dave. And he
Mhm.
started that out on a Canadian show called Bizarre with
Okay.
John Biner, and it was a burlesque show.
No
So
way.
yeah, so they have like two strip acts, like you would have for like a burlesque show.
Hmm.
So they did in that style. Then they had like like three comedy vignettes, and actually he was like the sidekick to John Biner. But then they do the Super Dave Osborne. We was all dressed up as Super Dave Osborne, doing his death-defying acts of danger and getting
Hmm.
smashed.
Hmm.
And then of course, that branched off and it turned into the Super Dave Osborne show. I believe was on Showtime. And Showtime, I think, also had the Bizarre when they aired it in the United States. It was on the Showtime network, obviously because of the striptease.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, they don't want titties on TV, even though I did see Vince Neil have titties on TV back in the day. You know?
It was a very different broadcast landscape.
It
Like,
was.
there were so many people that were these hot and upcoming stars, and it's going to sound crazy now in the 70s. And I'll always remember I loved a show called Grizzly Adams, and I know we're going down like the deep memory hole, but I love that show. And yes, this was a story about a guy with a huge manly beard who wore buckskin and had a giant Kodiak bear named Ben for a best friend. Television in the 70s was awesome. I'm just going to say that. You want to have your mind blown. Well, anyway, this guy was on one of the hottest shows on TV, taken off, and his whole career got ended in the 70s because he got busted with pot.
Mhm.
And the networks didn't want to have that because this was it was all family friendly and all this other stuff. And now we've got, I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, Ezra Miller pushing allegedly a pregnant woman down didn't seem to have, choking out pregnant women didn't cause
Yeah.
him any harm with his career. But yeah,
Well,
it's weird how
do
that
you remember?
works.
Remember when Dan Haggerty set his beard on fire with when he was having those flaming drinks? That
Oh,
happened for real.
I didn't know that. I did not know it was for real. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that happened for real.
151. Blow it out before you drink it. Eyebrows do grow back, but you don't want to test just how long that's going to take. So,
No, definitely not. And you're talking about here you have Grizzly Adam with having a bear. What about back in the '60s when you had Gentle Ben?
oh
You
yeah,
had what McLeod going around on an airboat in Florida
oh
with a
yeah,
grizzly bear.
oh yeah. Well, do you remember the other show? Oh God, I just went blank. And the fad that shouldn't be just threw this out there. And
Mm,
this was back when that happened. Drew Barrymore lifting her shirt up on
mm,
Dave's desk happened when it was CBS. I remember that. So
mm.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, it was the
yeah.
CBS after.
But there was another show, and this was early 80s, and it was BJ and the Bear.
Yep,
You remember? So check this
PJ
out.
McKay and his best friend.
This was the level of quality of television that was occurring in the early 80s, and this was the entire premise. It is a truck driver who has a monkey for his best friend, and he drives around the country with delivering loads, solving crimes. That That was the level of quality of television that you used to get back in the day. Now, I ask you this, what would you rather watch? A truck driver with his pet monkey driving around solving crimes or Boba Fett? I know which
Monkey.
one I'd rather pick. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? You
I,
know what inspired that show?
I don't.
Every Which Way But Loose with Clint Eastwood.
Of course. Oh God, I saw those in the theater. I saw both of them in the theater with my parents. Yep.
And then you had Claude Aiken as a sheriff, and he was so popular they spun that off to Sheriff Lobo.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely sounding like we should be at the old folks' home talking about some of these shows, but it's good stuff. These are good shows, man. I mean, just the same thing with WKRP in Cincinnati, Barney Miller.
Oh,
I mean, Mork and Mindy. These things are
mhm.
genius. You could put a kid now in front of Mork and Mindy with a young Robin Williams, who, let's be honest, was coked to the gills, and
Oh God.
they would laugh their ass off at it now, even still. They really would.
Yeah. And what was it? Orson, going back to Orson Bean, he sat back and said, "Yeah, Robin Williams is funny until he got off the coke."
Was Orson Bean in Planet of the Apes? I think he wasn't he? Wasn't
No,
he
he was
Isaiah,
not.
or that was somebody else? Okay.
No, he wasn't in there. No, he was never in
Oh,
those.
Roddy McDowell. It was
Roddy
Roddy
McDowell.
McDowell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. The voices, that's what threw me off, because Orson Bean and Roddy McDowell kind of have that same way of enunciating to a degree.
Yeah, they have that same tenor in how they talk. Yeah, that. Yeah. I'm gonna have to listen to those two side by side now. But then again, so people are going, okay, who's this Orson Bean? What the hell are they talking about here? Are we on the right show? What?
Yeah. I think it's time to ban Punk Waddle. He says, you two are in the digital old folks home now. Yes, Punk Waddle. Yes, we are. So
That's right, Sonny, and don't you ever forget it there, Sonny.
Zax, I don't like censorship, but I have my limits. I've never heard that about you. That's not what I've heard in the chat boards. And yeah, anyway, but no, I'm so lucky to be able to have Punk Waddle as a mod and Zax as a co-host. These are great guys. They really are.
And for some reason, I made Zax a wrench in my channel. I don't know why. What the hell was I thinking of?
You lost a bet. That's usually how those things happen. But speaking of Canadian shows, did you ever watch the Red Green Show?
Oh, I met him.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, I got a signed affidavit and everything to stay away. No, I mean, I got an autograph for everything. Yeah, saw him in the late '90s, and the one Sherry Anderson out there is in the chat. She will attest to that. She's my former wife. I gotta behave when I do these shows because she watches. You're gonna find a unique lad here on YouTube, Phil.
Oh Lord! So I was also laughing at Punk Waddle. He says, "I don't have to flatter him just because he makes good jokes," and I'm like, "Dude, you make good jokes. You like." I call out talent. You know what I mean? Like Zach's. I don't know if Zach's ever made a good joke, but I'll still say, "Hey, Zach's made a bad joke." So
the only Canadian that was funny is Red Green.
Well, John Candy was
John Candy
too.
Actually, most of the people on SCTV. I mean, Rick Moranis.
Those were fantastic, absolutely. And here's the thing, I think we all seem to forget about this, and it's the Kids in the Hall.
Yeah,
I loved the Kids in the Hall. I saw them on their reunion tour when they got back together. I think it was in 2010, and I saw them in a theater, and they were just as good as they were back in the day. And it just the Kids in the Hall is some of the most brilliant, absurdist comedy you're going to find, and at its time it was cutting edge. And that was, even then, Saturday Night Live was wilting. It was overripe produce, even then.
Right.
This is in the late 80s, early 90s. And Lorne Michaels, the same person who produced Saturday Night Live, was producing the Kids in the Hall, because I think he was looking at the future going, I don't know if the Saturday Night Live thing's going to stick around. Well, it did, right, but it probably shouldn't have. And, the Kids in the Hall, it went on for several, I think 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And then, individual people broke out. They made a couple movies, but it never became what Saturday Night Live,
right,
but not really.
Yeah, it was kind of like he was trying to do a mix of SNL and Monty Python together, mixture type of thing. But of course, he was always, anyone knows he's a big Monty Python fan and a Beatle fan. Oh my God, if that would ever have happened on SNL back in the '70s, when Lorne Michaels walked out there and offered $10 for the Beatles to come on the next week on the show and do a reunion, he'd do this, this crisp, brand new $10 bill. He'd pay them. Do you know that almost happened?
I did not know that.
It almost happened. They almost took him up on it. I think it was John Lennon that kind of said, "Nah," but everybody else, from what I understand, was wanting to do it. They say, "What the hell? This is a good joke.
Yeah.
What a joke! This would be a great joke."
Well, it
You
would
know?
be. It would be. And it would also would have been the stuff of legend. I'm
Yeah.
shocked. I'm shocked because, SNL shot in New York City. Lennon was in New
Mhm.
York City at the time.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know where, George was, if he was still in that Bhagwan Rijneesh thing, with the dude that going on. And,
Mata
of course,
Hiwishi, yeah.
yeah, that guy. And, Ringo was still with Barbara Bachman, I think. And yeah,
And still is too. They're a super couple still. Can you imagine that? They met on
that,
Caveman and went through
that's
treatment
crazy.
together, and they're still
That's
together. Yeah.
She was so outstanding in
Oh.
those Roger Moore movies. And
Mhm.
oh God, what it's the one where they go to Egypt. I forget the name of it. Oh boy, I'm sure the Thad that shouldn't be is going to remember the name, but
Oh,
just
I'm sure.
outstanding. Yeah, it's that Jaws was in there, the guy with the metal teeth, and then Barbara
Yeah.
Bachman plays the Russian
Mhm.
femme fatale, and of course Roger Moore being you
Not
know,
the spy who
not
loved
Roger
me.
Moore. No, no, The Spy Who Loved Me
Um,
was a different one, and that's my
okay,
least
yeah.
favorite of my least favorite
Yeah.
Bond movies. So yeah, I forget what it is. Anyway, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's crazy. Out of all the Beatles, who would have expected Ringo Starr to still be married to the wife he
Yeah.
married in the '70s? It's crazy, isn't it? Moonraker. No, it's not
Exactly. No,
Moonraker.
it's not Moonraker, John. No. It's the
That
first
was
time the
painful.
Jaws was.
That
Yeah.
was that was a painful movie. I just I have only recently begun to really appreciate Roger Moore for what he was. And at the time I hated him. I just, Sean Connery was my Bond. Even though, those movies were from the 60s, they came on TV and you saw Sean Connery and that's
Right.
James Bond. And suddenly you got this dude with the big polyester bell bottoms and the, leisure suits, like it's like it was over the top 70s cheese. But now watching Roger Moore and I'm sorry, I don't like the current iteration of Bond. I haven't liked
Mhm.
one of the movies with what's his name, the blonde guy.
Craig, Dennis,
Yeah,
Daniel Craig. Yeah.
Daniel Craig. I mean, I think he's a fine actor. I really do. I never saw him as Bond, and I haven't liked one movie that he put out. But that's what sent me back to watching the Roger Moore stuff. And I think Pierce Brosnan was a great Bond. I really do. I really do.
And this will probably surprise you. I thought Timothy Dalton was a pretty damn good Bond himself.
I remember when those movies came out, and you probably do too, right?
Yeah,
And
I saw him in the theater. Yeah,
yeah, because A View to the Kill was Roger Moore's last movie. Then we got The
right.
Living Daylights, and
Hmm.
and then the
License to Kill.
soundtrack License to Kill. And I hated Timothy Dalton. Like everybody
Yeah,
rejected him. Those movies were box
yeah,
office failures,
yeah,
and they didn't know what to do, and that's why they put it on a shelf for a while. You know?
yeah. I mean, as it goes for him, I liked his portrayal myself, and I thought that he was kind of closer to the Ian Fleming writing of Bond. But obviously they're in a flux. They didn't know what they were wanting to do with the
Mhm.
franchise, and unfortunately, he suffered. I think if he was given a better chance, better films, I think people would remember him a lot better.
Punk Waddle's dropping some wisdom in here. He's talking about the Ides of March, and the Ides. I
Uh,
believe that is actually around the 17th because my birthday was actually last Friday.
oh, happy
And
birthday!
thank you. I'm still eating pieces of birthday cake because
Mhm.
I always make
And
good decisions like that. But yeah,
Ides of March is the 15th. That's when Beware the Ides of March. That's
yeah,
when uh,
yeah.
Julius
Caesar.
Caesar was introduced to acupuncture.
Yes, yes. That's when he received the gift of a Swiss Army knife multiple times. Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At two Brutus and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a birthday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And going back to some of the, we're talking about moments in television. Did you ever see the Letterman show when he had Sonny and Cher on?
No, but I remember watching. This is what we should do on YouTube sometime. We should talk about all those celebrity specials that ran in the 70s. Because
Oh yeah,
Sonny and Cher, Elton John had his own variety show. The Carpenters had their own variety show. And I think out of all of them, the best one, if you're a music fan, was the Johnny Cash show.
Oh yeah.
He had everybody come on there, the most amazing 70s musicians, and they would play acoustic. That's it, just them, their voice, and they had a young James Taylor on there.
Oh
And
yeah.
but go ahead. I remember
Oh
how
yeah, no
funny
problem.
Sonny and Cher was back in the day. But
Yeah, and oh yeah, and also I want to throw in there Glenn Campbell. He had a pretty damn good show too. You can catch those
great
on the
voice, great
Great
voice.
voice. Yeah, they got his shows on that Shout Factory app. If you don't
Mhm.
have people, I'm not getting paid for this. If you don't have the Shout Factory app, you are cheating yourself. Just like if you don't have Pluto, you're cheating yourself. Get those apps. You'll thank me later, and maybe I'll get paid for it. But Johnny Carson, not Johnny, but Letterman had him on the show, and they're obviously long after divorce and all that, and he managed to talk them into doing "I Got You, Babe." They're kind of doing what they could,
Wow.
saying, "Oh no, we can't do it. My voice isn't so strong, whatever." They're doing everything they could. David Letterman just kept pounding them, and they went up there and they did "I Got You, Babe." If anybody look that up, maybe they have it on the YouTube.
Wow.
Letterman, Sonny and Cher. It's like, wow, this is one of the moments of television, music history here,
Mhm.
and hopefully it won't be forgotten.
Yeah. I was going back to I'm listening to you, but I'm also watching the chat, and they were
Yeah.
still throwing out James Bond movies, and it wasn't
Oh
Say Never Again, because that was
no.
the Sean Connery should have stayed quit movie. And I
Yeah.
don't think it wasn't Live and Let Die, because I think Live and Let Die was the one where he was in Vegas, right? When he probably
Mhm.
overstayed it. So I don't
Yeah.
remember what the hell. This is gonna bother me. This is gonna bother me, but I'll get over it. So yeah. Yeah, and look at this. The Thad that shouldn't be is our walking thesaurus and our walking Encyclopedia Britannica as well. And he does that on my show, and that's one of the
Oh
reasons
yeah.
I feel very lucky
What
to have him around.
Why? Yeah, I want him around because I don't need Google if he's around. So
That's
keep
true.
on coming to my shows, sir.
That's
Please
true.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so many of those. And here's the thing: you and I have never met.
Mhm,
Before this, we were on Twitter, but we had again. It was about that shared experience
mhm,
and our entertainment. And I am not a half Native American, half Italian woman who was born in the 40s, but I was able to identify with the Sonny and Cher's act.
yeah.
I mean, with these things, we could see ourselves in them, and had nothing to do with gender, color, sexuality, any of the intersectional tick boxes that seem to be the only focus that we're getting in our current
Mhm.
entertainment. And we liked them because they were talented and they were funny. And that was
Oh yeah.
pretty much it. And
I
today
mean,
we're seeing a lot of people who are neither talented nor funny, but they check a lot of boxes. And that's why I
right.
think our entertainment is failing.
I mean, for crying out loud, growing up, I mean, I was, it saddens me what happened, but I was a big Bill Cosby fan. I mean, when
Oh
growing up
yeah. Oh,
around wherever we're
yeah.
going, we all knew his sketches. We
Oh
were
yeah.
always Bill Cosby. This it's like, and I always sat back and said, this guy did more for race relations because he brought forward
100%.
he brought
100%.
forward stories that people could identify with, and
Yeah.
it
And
didn't matter what color you were.
here's the thing. He had a very successful Saturday morning cartoon for
Mhm.
years.
Yeah,
Every single character was an African American from the inner city.
and I watched it.
Every single character, animated show, I watched it. Bill Cosby did all the voices. I was able to identify with Fat Albert, with Weird Harold,
Oh,
with Mushmouth, all those great characters, but I wasn't black and I wasn't from the inner city. It was just
no,
good writing. They were compelling stories, and those stories taught you morality. They taught you what
mhm.
was right and what was wrong. And
Right.
that's what's so horrifying about this weird, just like somehow the world didn't start until the 90s when these people were born, or the 2000s when these people were born. They're telling the rest of us how everything is, and it's like, hey, you know, dig a little deeper. You're going to
Right.
find, the answers were kind of there already.
Well, I mean, we had Richard Pryor, we had Red Fox, we had
Oh God, yeah.
Della Reese, we had, of
Flip
course,
Wilson,
the
Flip
Flip
Wilson. Yeah.
Wilson. I was going to go there, and
Yep.
Nipsey Russell. Always a favorite of mine is
100%.
Nipsey Russell.
Oh
And
yeah.
and you go back to who was a power couple in Hollywood. people sit back and say about women and this and that. It's like the most powerful people in Hollywood at one time was Lucille Ball, a
And
redheaded
Desi
woman, and
Arnaz.
her husband, Desi Arnaz, a Cuban American.
And they
From
owned
Cuba.
everything. They owned everything, including the first season's broadcast of Star Trek. Desilu
Yes.
was the production company that produced Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. Like,
Yes.
This again. It's just like, got to listen to what's her name, Zoe Kravitz, talking about how unfair life is with her parents with a combined net worth of $100 million, talking about how oppressed she is. And it's like, you know what? Lucille Ball came up through a true man's world with her Cuban husband and managed to build an empire, working her ass off every day, actually fighting against a system which wanted to see her fail. But we don't hear about that.
No, and people were afraid of Desi. They were, because he could, in a single word, you'd be out of Hollywood. In fact, Roger C. Carmel, Harry Mudd, he felt the wrath of Desi because they did the show The Mother-in-Law, and Roger C. Carmel started to get a little too big for his britches and started pushing his weight around. And Desi said, "That's it, you're off the show." And he was replaced the next season, and he went through a whole slump of not having anything for the longest time. William Demarest was informed, you come to work sober. If you come to work one time drunk, because he was known to be a drunk, you're going to get fired right now. You will not be on the show anymore. And people were afraid of Dizzy. And it wasn't the fact that he was an autocrat or anything. It's just like, okay, we're going to do stuff right. We do stuff right, we're friends. If we don't do stuff right, well, I'm your boss, I'll fire you. And,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, the Thad that should be is continuing to provide, he's our Jeopardy reigning champion this week. It says the first movie Jaws was in was The Spy Who Loved Me, and I think that's what I'm referring to. And then he was in Moonraker as well.
Right.
I thought he was in another one, but I'm not going to doubt the Thad that shouldn't be, and it's not that important. I just wanted to call out the fact that we have provoked the chat to Google furiously. So fat and like there it is. John Rendell calls out Fat Albert 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the music was great for that. It's just wild. They're inventing offenses. They had to invent microaggressions because big problems had actually been solved. Can you imagine? Like, I need to find reasons to be offended and to find fault with things instead of actually making something original myself. It's kind of a twist.
Well, yeah. And more importantly, we got to find ways to divide this nation that was actually pretty well united. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying everything was perfect. Nothing ever is. There's no such thing as a perfect nation, perfect situation. But I mean, I remember growing up and, I was in a suburban school, but, I was around people who were black, people who were Asian, that. They were in my circle. They weren't my friends, but they were my circle. And you should have heard the things we called each other.
Oh, we don't. My word. Yeah. Oh, believe me, in the 80s, no. Yeah. I moved in the middle of my high school and was down south. I'll just say that, and went into a large metropolitan high school in a large southern city, and the amount of stuff things that I got called in just even riding the bus getting hassled because I was the only white boy, and it's like it is what it is, and you got over it. It wasn't a big deal,
Well, the thing is, for us, we're just busting each other's chops. It wasn't even any seriousness behind it. It's like, it's like the one-upsman game, and it didn't matter. We're going to go to areas of offense that you ain't seen.
Oh before. Yeah, no. I would play sports with these guys, and the amount of shit that we gave each other, and the things that were said, but that was part of team building. It was that's what guys do. That's what sorry, I'm being binary. That's what guys did in the locker room. You talked a lot of trash, but you had each other's backs because you were on the same team.
Exactly. I mean, you go in there, you point at each other's junk and say, "Hey, you got a tiny one there," and make fun of each other. But once you got out there, it's like, "Don't you dare make fun of my friend here, or you're going to talk to me." And it's like,
Yeah, I mean, and again, John Rendell drops this stuff. I mean, this is really genius stuff. The Flip Wilson was another African American entertainer that had his own variety show.
Yeah,
and it was really damn funny. And they address the issues of race and politics on that show in a way that was probably a lot more powerful than, let's say, the mostly peaceful protests that occurred last year. But
Hmm.
very talented man who I think is overlooked when you look at comedians. And I'm not
Oh
using
yeah.
the word African American comedians. I'm just using the word
Oh,
comedians because he was a great comedian. He really was.
oh yeah. And that's the way I look at it. I don't put a gender or ethnicity to these things. It's like these are great comedians. These are great people. These are great entertainers. Yeah, Dean Martin might be Italian, but boy, is he funny. He's a good singer. And I just look at Dino. I
Yeah.
look at Flip. I look at
Mhm.
Sammy. I mean, it's just like these are who these guys are. I don't,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, if you bring this stuff up in your acts, it makes it funny. But just watching those old roasts, my God, how they
The
went after each
things
other.
that
And
they
those were the
said.
edited.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I've got a couple of those DVDs where they're not edited. Like I found them at
Oh,
dude, I am a thrift store hound. I always go looking at the DVD sections. Like if I go and cruise, I don't look at anything else. I just want to see in the books and in the
hmm.
DVDs. And I found some amazing things like the Rankin and Bass animated Hobbit, all of the
Hmm.
Bakshi stuff, even like Bakshi Fire and Ice and stuff. You find the
Oh yeah.
craziest things that are really hard to get a hold of. But I found those roasts. Somebody had a set of them, and the things that they said, man, they were deliberately being provocative and funny
Oh
and
yeah.
saying the most racist things in the most good natured way, ribbing each other. And it
And
was
sexist too.
all ethnicities trashing other ethnicities. You had Red
Mhm.
Fox talking about Frank Sinatra and calling him every derogatory term for an Italian. And it was just funny because it's so ridiculous and they never
Right.
thought that about each other. But the way sometimes that you build a persuasive argument as to why something is absurd and why, being a real istrophobe or being intolerant is through humor. It's just pointing out how ridiculous it is. And
Mhm.
that's why I think things like the Dean Martin roast are so important and actually I think should be shown in
Right.
those safe spaces in current modern day universities.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it for us. It took the edge of us growing up. It's like they're throwing this stuff back and forth. And what's important about this, what the modern roasts don't understand,
Mm-hmm.
is these people knew each other. These people are friends, are at least good acquaintances. They've met, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously they don't have a bone to pick with each other. These new roasts that they have, these people don't even know each other. They're going out there and doing these big attacks. It's like, what's so funny
It's not
about that? You
funny.
don't,
No,
right? You
it's
don't
not
know this
funny.
guy, right? You're just being a personal attacker, and there's no story or there's no humor behind it for the fact that yeah, these guys know each other. Okay, we're getting a little inside of their
Yeah.
personal lives. They're
But
living together.
I think that's why Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles is such an
Oh,
important movie because again, it shows all of these things and how ridiculous they are. And again, using humor to point out how ridiculous these things are, it's funny as hell, but there's also a lot of, I don't want to say agenda in it, but it's very subtle. It's just that was
right.
why Mel Brooks in his prime with what he did,
Mhm.
and Young Frankenstein is part of that.
Oh yeah.
His humor is just timeless. It's perfect. And Blazing Saddles, I think, should be shown to
Mhm.
everyone who goes. I think they should lock all of the gender studies movie majors in a auditorium, chain the doors, and make them watch Blazing Saddles for 24 hours because they need to kind of learn to pull the giant arachnid out of their alimentary orifice and
You know,
just kind of laugh a little bit.
I'm getting orange in the with the a clockwork orange vibe going on here. Tie him down, the eyes open, and playing it over and
I
over
wouldn't go that far. I just think the fact that they would
again.
hear I think the fact that they would hear gendered language would probably cause them
Oh,
to stroke out, but
I know.
whatever.
Excuse
Yeah.
me while I whip this out.
Just yeah, Madeline Kahn. Is it true what they say about you people? Yeah, it's the best movie. Laughter is the best medicine.
Oh,
It
and
really is.
and one step even further back, the producers. I mean, the original one was Zero
Oh
Marcel and
yeah,
Gene Wilder,
yeah.
Bruce Mars. I mean, that one is a brilliant, hysterical. Everything wrong about that film, and it's great.
I agree. So much of that, yeah, there are so many movies like that from the 60s though that took on these issues.
Hmm.
And they didn't talk down to you, and they used talent, clever writing to
Hmm.
convey a message. They didn't tell you what to think. They gave you things and made you think about them, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's where current state of media and current state of entertainment, where forcing, these ESG score driven forced things like having an African queen in the Viking, the
Oh,
recent Viking Valhalla show, or what was it, Anne Boleyn.
oh, yeah.
I don't think they understand that they're causing conversations and they're disrupting things, but it's a dead end. Like
Right.
those things they don't cause anything positive. They're just like throwing an M80 in a toilet and destroying it. It's like, well, okay, I guess that was
Yeah.
funny, but whatever.
Yeah. Let's get Larry Bird out there, and he can play in the new Shaka Zulu. We'll do here.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
I
he's a
can't.
tall white guy. Let's put him in a
Yeah,
new one. Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean, let's
can't.
see how you like it.
I can't wait to see who they cast for the Stephen Hawking autobiographical movie. We'll have to see who that is.
What was it? The handyman from In Living Color.
Oh God. Oh Lord. Yeah.
Look it up,
But
kids.
yeah, yeah. A lot of cutting. It was cutting edge things. It's just humor.
Yeah.
Nobody died from making jokes.
On
You
the
know.
contrary, people. I mean, especially now with the mental mush-headed idiocracy that we have today, uh, the IQ 72 crowd, and they bash on Hogan's Heroes so much.
I can't. I haven't heard this. I don't understand it.
Right.
Hogan's Heroes. My grandpa used to complain about it because he's like, I
Mhm.
was there. They shouldn't make fun of this. But
Mhm.
I loved Hogan's Heroes
Right.
growing up. I mean, it was hysterical, and I mean, I
Mhm.
can't even imagine why they
Well,
did that.
yeah, they find it. Of course, they're talking about it, but you start taking a look at a little bit of behind the scenes of this,
Oh
and
God,
it's
yeah.
like
Oh, my God,
you
yeah.
have, Wiener Klemper, he's an Austrian Jew that got out of
Hmm.
Germany. John
Yeah,
Banner, another Austrian Jew that got out.
yeah,
Ron Clary, LeBeau, he was in the camps.
yeah. That's the thing
You have
is the way that these actors dealt with their trauma. And
right.
I can't think of anything more traumatic than being through a world war and then being a Jew in those countries that were occupied during World War II.
Hmm.
And then they escape and they get out, and then they have the freedom of expression to make
Right.
fun of that entire system and power structure that tried to
Hmm.
not just kill them, but to eradicate their entire race. And
Right.
I don't know how anybody can sit there now and then look at a show like Hogan's Heroes and think that, you know what, I'm going to write my doctoral thesis on
Hmm.
deconstructing how Colonel Klink is problematic. Can you imagine
Yeah.
how empty your life must be if that's what you think about?
Yeah. And Wiener Klemperer only had one rule about playing Colonel Klink, that Colonel Klink never wins.
Mhm.
It was like,
Mhm.
well, that's no problem. He was going to be the butt of the joke anyways.
Yeah.
And John Banner made it known. Schultz was a German soldier, but he was not a part of the Nazi Party.
No.
And and of course, General Hofstadter again, he was another a Jew from over there too. About the
Yeah.
only was Major, the SS Major that always came by the
Well,
Gestapo.
he was the bad guy,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
the other people, the Wehrmacht, there's a
Hmm.
whole, we can start having a very long conversation about
Oh yeah.
the German military and honor bound and Prussian,
Hmm.
military honor, but that's not this
No,
show. But
no.
it was really the SS that were they were horrifying people, and that's how they're portrayed on Hogan's Heroes.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
Everybody didn't like him,
Yeah.
including good old. Uh, oh, I'm getting old. I get
Oh,
no
it's
much
also
about talking about
late.
people. I know.
Yeah.
Wiener, good old Wiener. Colonel
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hogan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah, the Schultze. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, sure. But I mean, talking about Colonel Klink. Colonel Klink. Even he was afraid of all that,
Oh yeah,
and, it was a dramedy. It was a dramedy before dramedy was even uh, coined.
yeah. And people, I guess what bothers me again, this is a show, not that see, I don't think the way someone looks is what matters. But if you look
Hmm.
at when Hogan's Heroes came out, if I remember correctly, it was done in the late 60s or mid
Right.
60s. And
Yeah.
in that they had a radio operator who happened to be an African American.
Right.
You had LeBeau, who was French. You had the other guy with the, I think he was the pilot, but you had a pretty good cross section of America
Hmm.
represented on the screen, including African American servicemen from World War II.
Right.
And again, you can't win woke games. You just can't.
No.
You can't win it. It's never enough.
No, that's just it. And that's the sad thing. It's like, even some of the simplest stuff that we had could make you think. And there was a style, there was education, and being able to write. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
making things educational. I'm just saying that there was an education to writing something. This is how you tell a story. This
Yeah,
is how
three
you
acts.
break a story down. The 3 acts are, and all across the board. And they don't have this today.
No.
They just figure they're just going to go out there and vomit out this diatribe of rainbow farts and
Yeah.
Lord knows what else, and then
And
people are going to sit back.
nobody's
Oh, sorry.
watching it. I mean, no,
No,
and nobody's watching it. I mean, we were talking about Star Trek before in the green room before the show.
right.
Like
Hmm.
Star Trek, Kurtzman Trek got renewed. Not only that, they're going to do Strange New Worlds, and then I don't know, Section 69 or 38 or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
It's like nobody is watching these shows. And like
Hmm.
I tried to watch Picard for 5 minutes in the first season, and I'm out. Like
Hmm.
that is not my Jean-Luc Picard. I don't know who that is. But that I don't want anything to do with this. And yet Paramount keeps making these shows and nobody watches them, I mean, you got the CW, which is supposedly for sale now.
Hmm.
It's just like in Batman, Batwoman, Batwoman. I mean, that
Yeah.
show, they're never going to cancel that show, you
No.
know? And if these shows aren't made to make money, if people aren't going to pay money to advertise on them, which is the whole point of
Hmm.
being in the business of television, then
Right.
what is the motivation for having these shows on?
Especially when you have it on paywall.
Yeah.
I mean, you have it on paywall. People are paying to go to your service. I mean, I know for a while there, they were showing these shows on Pluto. They might still be, but talk about
Mhm.
the ultimate insult. This is
Yeah.
like, major show, and you're putting on a free service like Pluto to
Mhm.
watch.
Yeah.
And it's like, you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I think the only scenario, if I look at it historically, where it's not even entertainment, where it's propatainment occurs like that, is when you're looking at it's propaganda.
mhm.
The message is more important than people watching. You just have to keep hammering in the same talking points every week, and nobody's watching it. And that to me reminds me of something absurd, like from the movie Brazil, or
Mhm. But the
Orwellian.
thing is, you're absolutely right. I think it was Jason Isaacs or whatever. He played the role of the evil captain in the first season of
Mm,
STD, and that's how I'm
mm,
going to refer it because it is an STD.
mhm,
And he sat back and said, "If we don't agree with what we're doing, we don't want you to watch." It's like,
mhm.
that's not Star Trek.
It's not Star Trek.
And now you got the fans echoing that. They're going out there saying, "We don't want you, old time fans. This is beyond you. We
Yeah,
have it now. We don't want you." It's like, that is not what Star Trek was about. Star Trek fandom was always about welcoming people in. It's like,
one
I'm
hundred
not
percent.
I'm not too sure about the Star Trek. What is the Star Trek about? Come on and sit down and we'll watch it here. It's like,
Oh yeah.
well, yeah. And
No, I'm in the choir going, "Amen, brother, preach." I mean, like
yeah,
100%. And it would be different if it was just one fandom. And I say
right,
this on my show all the time, but it's every damn thing. And
right.
now they're coming after Tolkien. They came
Yeah.
after Robert Jordan. Now, Robert Jordan, he's not Tolkien, but he wrote a 15-book series. Okay, arguably
Hmm.
12 before his death. Brandon
Right.
Sanderson did 2 or 3 of them, which are
Hmm.
okay. But Amazon took that. This was a beloved franchise for many, many years in the Wheel of Time, and they
Hmm.
woke it up. And now they're going after Tolkien. and everybody's been talking about these diverse casting choices, and then of course the shill media is going, oh, look at how Istanphobe you are. And here's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Max Field von Priestley that pointed this out on my show a couple weeks ago. I want to give credit where credit is due. He says we are spending all of our time talking about characters that did not exist in Tolkien's world. Tolkien did not
Mm-hmm.
create these characters. Amazon did, in showrunners McCain and Pay, who
Mm-hmm.
are affiliated with J.J. Abrams. They decided that to use their own words, were going to write the novel that Tolkien never wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we're talking about are the shitty, agenda-laden non-characters in Tolkien world. And we're not talking about the lore. We're not talking about the
Yeah.
Silmarils. We're not talking about don't even get me started about Gladriel. It just, we're not talking about Tolkien anymore. We're having a conversation about race when really we should be
Mm-hmm.
talking about Numenor and orcs
Right.
and Sauron, and it's not Lord of the Rings. I don't know what the hell it is.
I mean, Zax and I were talking about this a couple weeks back on the show, and in the part coming in there, I think it was with Zax. He can correct me with this, where they're sitting back saying that they're comparing the dwarves to Jews because of their love of gold.
How do you see this? What kind of an idiot does that? They did it with the goblins in the world of Harry Potter too. What kind of a moron is watching a movie about wizards and going, you know what? That resembles somebody who is Judaic. What the hell is wrong with you? I can't help you.
Exactly.
Move on. Crazy is down the block. It's not here.
What is more racist? That is more racist.
I agree. Somebody's seeing something that's not there. And again, because the supply of actual ism and phobia isn't there, they have to keep broadening the definition of what it is, just to try and satisfy their demand. So, yeah.
And the way they're going more and more outrageous. And the one thing that is a good sign about that, the more outrageous and more screaming that they're doing now means that they're losing the battle. They know they're losing the battle, and I'm more than willing to help with a stake through the heart.
Yeah,
put it to the end.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is about, if you don't lie, it's really easy to remember your story. You know, and these guys, they have to keep changing the story to like, because we can throw all the facts we want. I learned this a long time ago when I went to college with these knuckleheads. Is they're predicated on emotion. It's an emotional response, and we can keep using facts until the end of time. We can point out Tolkien this, we can point out Wheel of Time that, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, you name it. At the end of the day, the best way to fight these people is to literally laugh at them and point out what they're doing, and then if you really ask them for facts and data, they will immediately start calling you names, because that's all they got. And we know, we've seen that in Star Wars,
Yep. And that's just it. I mean, I get called that stuff. I laugh. It's like, okay, fine. One thing, I know I won the battle. I know I won this battle. That's the best you can do. You don't know the subject. I mean, as someone, I adore Lord of the Rings. I read it a few times myself. I know, the stuff that's based off of the old Nordic history, because I used to lecture on Nordic things back in the day.
Right on. Yeah.
And, talking about the folklores and stuff, immerse myself in the folklore. It's like, well, considering that that the Tolkien got the idea from the Nordics, where the dwarves were and how they were, I'm sure the Nordics went out of their way to make sure that they based the legends of the dwarves off of Jews that they hadn't even met yet.
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. The Viking show defenders were saying how Vikings were sailing down to the Mediterranean all the time. It's just the leaps of logic to shill and White Knight for these idiotic things. It's like, they know they're not telling the truth. They know they're full of shit. And it's like, what do you do with that? I don't
actually, they were right about that. They did sail down in the Mediterranean, the Varangian Guard and all that, but you didn't necessarily have black people, the whole boat's full of, we're going to have this and that, and so on. It wasn't the case. I mean, they were going down in it, but that doesn't mean anything.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I mean, and Leaf, they did discover Greenland. I'm convinced that they were on the eastern shores of far
Hmm.
northern Canada too.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, it Punk Waddle, did it jump on me?
Where was he?
It
Is
was
that one?
probably up a little bit. No, it was
Oh,
before that. Punk Waddle. I think it was before Bruce Lombardo of Dick's division. I think it's anyway.
yeah.
It's just it's the same thing, and
Hmm.
it's people
Would
like
you
to say
say?
we're in two different echo chambers. Like there's
Hmm.
us and there's them, and the
Hmm.
fact is
Right.
that I don't see us in two different echo chambers. I see people
No.
grounded in reality who see why and what is happening to our entertainment, to our air quotes comfort, and those people who have nothing else in their life other than the latest thing that's popped up on their social media screen telling them what the programming is. And I
Mhm.
wish that wasn't like that, but this is just how it is. And you can't have an argument, or here's the thing: you can't have a discussion or a dialogue because they are not interested in reaching compromise. They are
No.
interested only in dominating, and they really do want to replace us. They
Yes.
want to erase us, and they want to replace us with this new religion, with this new whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's baffling to me. It really
And
is.
for them, it is a religion. You're
Yeah.
battling against a bunch of religious extremists. I know that
Hmm.
sounds whatever. Oh my
Absolutely.
God, what you say? But it's true. This is their religion. They eat, breathe. These are the people that we laughed at that lived in their parents' basement and didn't have a life, and now they're given a computer and can
Mhm.
actually people can actually pay attention to them.
Mhm.
Uh,
I,
uh,
I also think this is a manifestation of the education system, and I'm gonna
oh,
have
it is.
to go
Oh
pretty
yeah.
soon because I need to walk
Oh
my
yeah.
dog. But I think this is the reward of the participation trophy thing, where you get rewarded for
Hmm.
giving the answer the teacher wants,
Hmm.
not the answer which is factually or culturally true.
Right.
And I think that's where the divergence has occurred. I used to be an
Hmm.
educator a long time ago. I'm glad I don't do it anymore. But
Hmm.
when you reward someone for giving you what it is that you want to hear, as opposed to giving someone the capacity to have critical thinking to develop their own answer based upon information, facts, and competing opinion, you end up with what we have now. And I don't know how you have any type of a dialogue. I mean, I think there's two
Hmm.
very divergent cultures, and maybe that's just how it's going to be. I wish it wasn't, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's by accident. I don't,
No.
you know.
No, it's happened before. It'll happen again. Is
It's
this
just
our
like Battlestar Galactica, just like
mhm.
Battlestar Galactica. Yeah.
And we just have to keep up the fight, and we just
Yeah.
can't let it wear
Yeah.
us down. And
Well, and that's the thing, is they cannot take these things away from us. They didn't
no,
take Star Trek away from me. They didn't take Star Wars away from me. I
hmm
have my physical media copies. I have my books. I
right,
have my memories. I have the Lord of the Rings. I have the Hobbit. I have the films. I have the books. I have all of it. And not only that, but we have each other.
right,
We can talk about it in these forums, and
hmm
we can in our various levels and places of fandom. Everyone is welcome. We want people to be excited about things. We want to share our own experience, and nobody can, even if they throw us all in camps and take out all of the DVDs and the books away from us, we're still going to remember those stories. We're
oh
still going
yeah,
to be able to talk to each other about that. We're still going to grab a stick and pretend to be Aragorn, or
yep,
or a stick and pretend to be Han Solo, or Luke Skywalker. Like
exactly.
they can't break that in us. So I'm not
Well,
gonna
yeah,
let it.
because it's here and isn't here,
Bingo.
and you can't get it
Yeah.
away from us because we love it and we know it, and
Yeah.
that's the big difference.
So don't lose heart.
No,
Those of you in the chat, I mean, you're all adults. You all make your own decisions,
mhm.
but you are not alone. You are
No,
not alone, and there are way, 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 way a lot more of us, and us meaning the people who love things, who love the original source material, than they would like you to believe. We'll just leave it like that. So,
I agree with you. Thank you so much.
oh, Baron, you are fun as hell, dude.
Well, thank you.
I loved hanging out with you, and it was great talking radio.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometime we'll have to get together and compare our vinyl collection, and I'll show you my old
Sure.
key amp that I restored. So yeah,
Oh, that sounds like
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
So, and of course, every guest I say this to because each one has been wonderful. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. I'd love to have you on there. I know there's more we can talk about stuff. So,
No, I agree. This was a blast, and if my voice, sorry, because I went almost 4 hours last night. My
mhm,
voice is a little bit rough while I've been sitting here. I've been, trying to do the cough drop thing, but I can start to
mhm.
feel it's starting to go. Um, but I was honored to have you on. I loved what we
Oh,
talked about. It was so cool to talk about these things and to go down some of the roads we did to talk about old TV, to talk about our
mhm.
fandoms, and to have this different conversation. You're a wonderful guy. I know your
Oh,
channel's
thank
going
you.
to continue to grow. I hope mine does too. Um, and,
Yeah.
and it's just, I just thank you for having me on. If you don't mind, I'm just going to shout out. I'm going to be on
Me too.
Nerdtorial Lifeforms channel tomorrow. We're going
Hmm.
to talk about Aliens 1986, and then I think like tomorrow's Thursday, Friday, and then next Monday, those of you who are channel members on my channel, we're doing a members only stream for my Wolf brothers and sisters. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we're going to have a very Wheel of Time focused show with a lot of the old gang that used to talk Wheel of Time. We're going to talk about that a little bit, as well as talk about probably Kenobi, probably a little bit more about Batman, and of course, all things Lord of the Rings as well. So please join me.
I'm Batman. Thank you
You
for promoting
actually
that. I was
are.
going to add. No, thank you. I was going to have you do that, so I'm glad you did promote yourself. And of course, for myself, I'm still trickling it down. I'm hopefully going to get some videos out myself. Of course, besides my show here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Time. Catch me with these guys right here, the Primetime Kings with
Great
24
guys.
7 Fusion Media. Yep. Fat Steven Seagal and Vigilante Williamson. 5:15 every Sunday at Central Standard Time. So catch them as well. So, Salty, Texas C, and myself, I thank you all very much for joining us today. I hope you all have a fantastic night, and thank you so much for joining us. Every one of you is important out there, even the ones that lurk. So don't
Even
feel you're being
Zach's.
left out. Even
Even
Zach's.
Zach's.
We'll
Yep.
we'll include him too. So, okay, and good night, everybody. Thank you so much.